Ah, we already have people chatting. 20 seconds. No.
We are
zero,
live.
0 seconds.
Yeah.
We're live. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Can't be setting some expectations real early. So, let's get started. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Most importantly, is everyone ready? We have our first.
Dun, dun. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Before you.
Hi, friend. Hello.
Trying to get our screenshot out of the way.
Such a great
Welcome to our first ever 3-column broadcast.
That's right. You are our first guest, Estella.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tell us quickly about yourself. We're going to get into everything later, but...
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I am a VR, AR creative director and artist, and I make cool visual things in VR and AR. Previously, artist in residence with Google Tilt Brush, Adobe, Cartoon Network, and I do consulting work to get people's VR film ideas or AR ideas and add some really cool storytelling components into it and make it into the real world.
And
face. Look at that. Wait. What? I'm gonna go in now and go see it.
Oh God. Not in that whole thing.
The whole episode, that'd be great.
Oh, I think we've got some Estella fans in here.
Hi, friend.
In the chat. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
So
now is this in the YouTube chat or in the
YouTube chat?
Technology is failing me.
Is this your first
anyway,
episode,
go ahead.
Spencer? Is this your first time?
I know, right? Well, I'm not getting any chat. All I got is Noah. Noah said yo, and that's all I got. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Anyway. Let's do some news while we wait for people to kind of file in, because we got a lot. We got a lot of stuff.
A lot happening this week.
It's a big week. So,
all right.
This is an Oculus update for Quest that's coming out. They've got a new, that system UI that we all have to deal with. They've redesigned it. It's got some. I like that you can get to the battery status easier. Hopefully, you can shut down or sleep easier. Because I don't know about you guys, but I hold that power button. So
that's the only way I know how to do it.
Oh.
Yeah. So do you do it a different way?
I just put it into a case.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know.
But sometimes you have to reset it because it gets all confused and shits sideways. So hold the power button until it comes up and says turn it off or
okay.
restart.
I'm learning from you guys. This is helpful. Maybe I'll see my battery.
That's what it's all about. They're also, you can bring up the UI inside of games or applications now. So instead of going out of Beat Saber to bring up the system overlay, you can actually get into it from within the game itself. They're basically compositing the system UI with the current app that you're in. So that's really cool. And then another really cool thing is that the browser, Firefox Reality was already doing this, but now the browser can run multiple windows, so you could be multitasking. It actually makes this more like it could be used for work and productivity stuff, possibly.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they talk about hand tracking updates. Anything in that?
No, but I think so. Mine's currently set up under the experimental settings to auto switch. So right now I've got hand and controller, but it does act funky sometimes. It's not great.
It's not perfect. Yeah, I'd love to be able to, have that be a little bit more effective.
Yeah. The other kind of Quest and Oculus related announcement was that they're starting to work towards the OpenXR standard. This is super nerdy, but we had a lot of people talking about this in our Discord chat, and it really is a positive thing. It's a good thing for people that are building content that they want to work a lot across a lot of different hardware without a lot of pain. So it's great that they're doing that. I think this and WebXR standards are all super helpful. And so this is just another great announcement. And we'll link to it in the show notes because this one's not worth dwelling over too much. The other big announcement was Magic Leap released a whole big crazy update. It's an OS update. It's a lot of new features. The coolest thing so far is this desktop companion app that I've seen. I haven't actually gotten the software update on my Magic Leap just yet. But they have also killed, for developers, what they call the package managers, now called the lab. And it launches a similar view to this. So this is a desktop application that will let you connect with your device, see what files are installed. So Spencer, you recorded a video of mine last week, and you're like, how do I get the video off of it? This would let you just dig into it, to the file system from the desktop and pull stuff in or out.
As a file system, so you'd see it as a series of folders and files, right?
One of the tabs for the device view is applications that are installed, and then the files.
Right.
And they did this because they're trying to move quickly towards a more enterprise-oriented thing. So the reason why this is cool is because you can install applications from the desktop for multiple devices without having to jump into each device, go into the App Store and all that.
Right.
I didn't get the actual desktop companion app to work yet. I was talking about it in the Discord chat, but I needed the OS update. But the lab does the same thing, and it works great. And then
so I have a little bit of magic. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and then just the other thing they're relevant to our current situation is they're releasing the ability to have what they call meetings, which I think they're using as like a proper noun. Like there's a way you can have meetings and share 3D files, and that's all coming. And there's like a little video here that I'll show.
We can start meetings from the social app.
So this is them just firing up a meeting from inside the Magic Leap social app, which is kind of their avatar chat thing. And you can bring in 3D models and annotate them, things like that, which is good because we need more and more collaboration options right now. So this is pulling something in from the gallery into the meeting, which is interesting because it's a little bit like spatial, which we talked about last week, but I don't think it's nearly as sophisticated as that. So what were you
know, it would be great to have a like a what's the thing in AirDrop? Have kind of an AirDrop function where you could go to your desktop because you can see through the Magic Leap.
Yeah.
Go to your desktop and just drag something into the Magic Leap device, and now you have that asset on the headset.
That's what the desktop companion app will let you do. I don't think it's as fluid as what you're talking about, which is like, oh, I'm currently in a meeting and I want to quickly drop it into the.
Oh yeah, let me show you this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. And then the thing I tweeted a little bit about this. The other big kind of more subtle announcement in here was their Magicverse SDK. So Magic Leap has long talked about the Magicverse, which is in less flowery kind of marketing language than they use. It's basically the ability to load augmented reality applications that work across headsets, phones, and they're persistently located. They're multi-user. It's everything we've always talked about in AR experiences, where you and I happen to be in the same place at the same time, and we want to play a thing together or do a thing together, or I leave something for you somewhere, and I have a headset, you have a phone, all that interop stuff, which is a very difficult technical challenge, a series of challenges, but they've released a technical preview of the SDK. I started digging into it a little bit, and Danny Bennett's here. Put him up on the comments. So yeah, the Magic Leap one was kind of packed with stuff, so that one took a little longer to get through. And Unity, they just got 2019. The 2019 version of Unity out to general release, I think February. and they've now announced
Right.
2020 beta. So I don't think this one's going to be as drawn out as 2019 was. 2019 was actually under the hood a very big release, and just by virtue of the fact they didn't get it out till 2020. There's not a lot of XR stuff in here in the 2020 beta announcement, so I don't know if I could really tell someone that they really need to get on it like I did with 2019, because they talk about a lot of stuff, but not a lot of XR stuff. So I think probably, but I do think Mars is probably related to this in some way, but they didn't mention it. So that was the big Unity announcement. They did mention WebGL in there, that they've been working on that, which is actually good to hear, because I thought their WebGL stuff was dead. But yeah, there was that. Making sure I'm keeping up with the chat. Oh, let's see. Oh, what's this? What is color space?
Oh my gosh, I can talk about that later.
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
when we talk about
let's talk
Well,
about
actually,
let's talk about that later. Save your content.
Save my content.
Hey, will you save your content? I just have to point out that Paul and I are both kind of like, our little circles are, kind of in these relatively mundane environments. And then Estella's got like this freaking amazing background and the lighting is perfect. It's like, oh, look, we invited an artist on board. That's awesome.
always emphasis on the aesthetic.
Oh, thanks. Happy to be here.
So do we want to keep going through the news stuff, and then we'll drop in.
I've got your story up. I thought you might want to take it.
Yeah. So on a adage.com, there's a piece about people making Instagram AR apps that have basically are telling you whether or not you have the coronavirus. And so they're having to like go, no, you can't do that. You actually have to.
I love this new Snapchat filter.
Bad thing. And so, but it's interesting that we have fake news that is now bleeding into augmented reality applications.
I know it.
And
it bums me out.
I think I think I remember seeing like some of the fake AR filters. It was like, do this filter and see if you have coronavirus, which is just absolutely terrible as like spreading that idea that an AR filter can do that.
I think a really good rule for everyone listening and everyone who watches this is don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make responsible content.
I mean, I know this is an interesting topic, because on one hand, I'm really excited that more and more people are able to build 3D content, experimenting with Spark and all these different tools. And but one of the things I've always been really excited about VR and AR is that they are a little bit. I just remember the early days of social where it was kind of a really nerdy thing to get into, and by virtue of that, you kind of had like the utopia of like nice, considerate people getting together and socializing online. And then once
like email before spam.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I had really hoped that these new technologies would kind of be a green field for like a stronger community and like and kind of filtering out this type of stuff. But at the same time, it's becoming easier and easier to build it. And when people can pull like millions and literally billions of lens views or filter views, if they hit the right mark, they're just motivated to do crap like this. And so it's kind of it's the double-edged sword of, we want everybody to be able to make all this stuff, but when we say that, we really mean the nice people. We want or the considerate, good people. We want good people to make good stuff.
And so there's two sides of that. One is everyone is anonymous and you can say or do anything you want to, and there's no repercussions. And the other one is there is no anonymity, and you your name, address, and phone number is tied to every action you make on the net. That's also terrifying.
Yeah.
So it's like where do we get the happy medium there?
I know it's well, and this is not Spark's first. Spark had to ban. I remember when it first got out of beta, because they monitor. You have to submit your content to be approved, and they've got all these crazy guidelines, and they had to immediately put out a policy around. I think someone had put out a filter that's like when a plastic surgeon marks up your face of all the stuff they're going to do with a marker, and so somebody built a filter that, or a couple people actually, that built a filter that made people kind of look like they were pre-op, basically. And it was just bad. And so they just created a policy to stop it from happening. But you really don't know what people are going to try to do until you give them these tools. And I know,
well, right. I mean,
can't create policies.
Paul and I have been in video games since kind of the pretty much the beginning. And I remember how shocked people were.
You have, not me.
Well, not okay. I mean, pretty close. Yeah, I am older than you. Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Much older.
But
go ahead.
But I remember being super shocked by the fact that people were doing things with the game that we weren't expecting them to do. It's like, whoa, they like made their own sub game inside of our game.
Modding
modding
was the first version of this, right? And
just behaviorally, like without even modding the code, just like playing the game in a way we hadn't expected them to, especially when it's a more free ranging open world kind of thing. Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto was the precursor
right?
to all that, and the modding.
I was thinking of Doom, like the Barney Doom mod, because I'm kind of aging myself a little bit, but like that's what I remember as like the first kind of like
well,
and that was when modding.
They would sing to you too. Oh,
there were always people modding by like reverse engineering and actually hacking the code, but then game companies figured out, we build these tools for us to build the games anyway, so if we just release those as mod packs, then. And then it started this whole thing, and people do bad stuff for that. Oh,
Danny says bump your mic.
I'm bumping. You know what I figured out? What's different is you two are coming in through one Skype feed.
Oh.
So you're saying this is Estella's fault.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I win.
You know what? This is part of the experiment of having the 3-column chat, right? 3-column chat.
Well, apparently we only need 2 because Spencer just walked out of the room.
You know what? So it goes.
Wine.
All right, beverage break. Thank you, Danny. Let me know. It could be also because I'm pushing the mic away. So let me know. I'm constantly. This is the worst thing a host could do is like be constantly pushing the mic. as a twitch. So just thank you for everyone keeping us on top of our audio levels. I really do appreciate it. I listened. We had one episode, Estella, where I've totally gotten over my hatred of hearing myself because I had to listen to 6 episodes in a row to make the show notes. And we had one where my mic was just completely blown out. And,
man.
But whatever. It happens. I think the other thing, I don't really have a thing to show, but just briefly, of all the announcements happening this week, Apple announced this morning their new iPad. And iPad Pro, huge screen.
Spencer has thoughts, it looks like.
And take it away, Spencer.
You're giddy. I'm all a flutter. I really am. I mean, new processor, basically same iPad form factor, but with LiDAR. I mean, the last time I checked, LiDAR was a beer can.
That spins
a big one
with mirrors.
That spins with mirrors, and it's got a giant DC motor underneath it.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh yes, and by the way, this is this is the closest to to that kind of tech that I've seen so far.
It is not that big.
It is not that big. It's basically the size of the back of the iPhone 11.
Yeah.
So I'm stunned and stoked. I do have to say though that their imagery on the site where it shows the environmental geometry and it's all this like perfect point cloud. It's just gorgeous and everything's perfect. That's aspirational. I'm pretty sure that they're not getting that kind of point cloud out of a LiDAR system that's the size of a quarter of a sugar cube.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
So, I have to ask because I'm not too familiar with hardware of that sort. Like, what would the LiDAR be used for the iPad?
Yeah, no, it's. I'm glad you asked that question because I was going to answer it.
Okay.
so right now, all your mobile AR, all your iPad, iPhone, Android phone AR is using a couple sensors, primarily the camera, and then it's using the accelerometers and the gyro, and it's kind of resolving all that to try to figure out where you are in the world. And so the only visual reference the phones have right now is a monocular camera. And if it's too dark, if there's not enough visual interest in the frame, it has nothing to kind of track. And so we constantly have problems in mobile AR with people. You have to do all these gyrations to move your phone around to get it to localize the track, and you got to wave it around, but not too fast, but not too slow. It can't be too dark. It can't be too much glass. Like, it's all these things. And it's because we're using one camera and a one color camera to try to figure out the world. So the biggest thing for me, and I think Spencer's going to show us another thing, but the biggest thing for me is by having a different outbound visual source than a camera. It first of all, it tracks much faster. So it'll actually throw light out. It'll know how far away it is, and you don't need someone to move the phone as much, which pretty much means that you can instantly start tracking. And Apple said as much in their announcement. In the very first paragraph of this whole new iPad announcement, in the very first paragraph, it says, this is the ultimate AR device because it will track instantly and quickly. It'll work in low light, if not dark. It'll just be so much more performant. On top of that, so all the existing AR stuff gets all that. But on top of that, now you can do what Spencer was showing, which is reconstruction or scanning of the environment. And so so using the structure scanner. So Spencer just did this while I was jibber-jabbering.
Yeah.
And so to build that, you navigate. So to build that without a sensor, like Displayland does this, you can scan an environment. You have to walk really slowly, make multiple passes. So it just speeds up everything. It will be, what Spencer is saying too, it will be interesting to see what level of fidelity you get out of it. Can you really scan like a 3D object with it? We did a couple episodes ago with the Scandy Lookout, where we actually, it uses a mirror to use the infrared sensor on the front of an iPhone to scan objects in front of you. And it does pretty decent job. I think this will probably be better. It's definitely more powerful, a more powerful.
Well,
sensor.
if it's actually LiDAR, I'm going to be I'm going to be amazed. I mean, because and I know that they who did they Prime Sense? They
bought the they bought the company that did the original Connect One, infrared sensor.
Right, and didn't we work with the CEO of that? The guy from Israel.
Well, he was a co-founder of Prime Sense, wound up working at Magic Leap.
Right,
which is not a secret, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's something. We knew Apple bought Prime Sense forever ago, and we've known the closest thing to this has been Google's Tango. Google came out with a Tango tablet, 2014, 2015, that had an extra sensor on the back. Wasn't that great? It was very slow, but we know people have been tinkering with it. And then there was an Android phone. It was a phablet. Remember phablets?
Oh.
The phones got so big they started calling them phablets because they're tablet size. It was like the Asus. I can't remember. Zen phone, or it's like Zen or something like that, and it had a sensor.
What's that, Paul?
Yeah, it's like talking on a lunch tray. So yeah, the problem's been finding enough compelling use cases for a depth sensor on a phone to justify the additional cost and complexity, and obviously the power and size requirements have always been an issue. So it feels like we've finally done it.
Holy crap, though. If they've got a LiDAR sensor that's small enough to fit inside of that little tiny package like that, that is going to, I mean, if it's as accurate as it looks like it, or at least that they want it to be, and it probably is because it's Apple, I mean, this will give us environmental geometry like out of the box, super fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a step in the right direction. It'll just take it. It's got to happen. Everyone, don't worry. Spencer will buy this. He's probably started putting his order in already. He'll probably get it next week. And
already done.
None of us have to buy it. We can just Spencer will review it for us.
Does anyone want to buy a really, really nice
a 13-inch iPad? Barely used.
Actually heavily used.
And they have a keyboard that's like $400. It's got a trackpad on it. Did you see that?
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Not as excited.
Not as excited about that. I mean, I kind of like my little foldy thing that I just pop out there, but I do use the $125 little thing. So
our friend Beach wants to know if it's really LiDAR, can you strap it to a drone and scan the ground for ancient ruins?
Would you strap the iPad to the drone?
Again, Spencer will try all these things.
I mean, it depends on what. There we go. We got FilmBot in the house, which is cool. He's like not fast enough on the refresh.
Before I kill
it from the drone.
Is there a more perfect avatar for this question than what David Beach has as his avatar? It's like
I love his avatar.
So yeah, I didn't think we'd spend that much time talking about the iPad, but I knew Spencer was excited about it.
That's cool. That is cool.
Yeah, I am super excited. And now that there's like all sorts of amazing art tools on the pad too now, and video tools and audio tools, it's just like it's a thing.
Yeah,
you can actually run
we only talked about the scanner, but Cammie and Danny pointed out there's like a whole crazy audio thing. It's it's a pretty impressive. But by the time you buy it fully built out and everything, you're $2,000 into an iPad.
Yeah, but if you buy all that stuff and put it into a hard case and get all the cables and stuff, you're looking at 10 to 20 grand. And FilmBot, don't laugh at me. 10 to 20 grand is small potatoes for that guy.
So yeah, that was the Apple announcement. I didn't think we'd actually get that much out of it, but we did. So I'm going to switch over to one more news story, which we're at the halfway mark, and it leads us right into the last half where we'll talk to our guests much more.
Hey, before we go completely into Estella and how cool she is and what a great artist she is,
let's don't do that. Let's just don't do that.
Yeah, let's not.
But she's got so much content. I was wondering, can we show my little
you broke up. Your little what?
Painting to all of her incredible, amazing. What?
You broke up. Your little what? Your little what?
Oh, tilt brush painting.
The one you brought before.
Oh,
what did you think I said?
Well, you never finished. You broke up. Wait, yours? The one you did?
Yeah.
Oh, you put it in Discord. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I should have.
Let's bring that up because this is my super crappy.
I am a jerk.
But this was so.
So true.
This little section here is Sketchfab has now, well, Tiltbrush now has a Sketchfab export, which is so damn easy to use. It's just like bang, 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 and you're done. It is so great. The only thing that is a little bit of a kind of a hassle is once you get it to the browser in the Quest, then you're basically, it's got to sit there and do its browser thing. You can go back into Tiltbrush and do something else, but there is that Sketchfab upload conversion step, which is of course understandable because you're uploading data. But this is pretty freaking amazing. You can use all those incredible Sketchfab material and effects presets and stuff, and tweak it and modify it and play with it, and make glows on it and little ground shadows and AO and all sorts of cool little things with it. And it's I don't know, I am really excited about doing more with this, and I'd love to hear what Stella is doing, like in that, like going from VR into the real world. I know that you've done a lot of that, but so I'm just kind of setting you up for that. Like, I think it's really cool, and I just found out about it today or yesterday.
Dude, anything that helps with exporting things is like, anything helps at this point. So I don't know, like, Paul, do you want to review what the update is first, and then we can
sure. Yeah, so I mean, basically, Tiltbrush. Man, if you're watching XR Talk and you don't know what Tiltbrush is, I don't know if I can help you. But Tiltbrush was like the original VR killer app, I would say, of this generation of VR. It was quickly snapped up by Google. It was built in Unity. It was kind of the whenever you put someone in VR back in 2015, it was like put them in Tiltbrush because everybody just gets it. And it, I think the most compelling thing about it is it uses all the most unique aspects of VR. Your full body motion, two hands tracking, you're immersed, and everyone kind of gets this very primal idea of, I want to draw a cool looking thing, or I want to express myself. So that's Tiltbrush, and then they I don't remember when they came out with it, but you've always for a long time been able to export to FBX, which is how a lot of people, including
OBJ.
No, you can do FBX too.
Okay.
So you can. That's how a lot of folks have gotten their models out of Tiltbrush and into, like we posted a GIF earlier today of Estella pulling out her Tiltbrush sketch into Spark, or like I know Danny's pulled in a lot of stuff into Unity. So getting your stuff out of Tiltbrush has always been kind of hokey and funky, and a part of that has been what Spencer was saying. The special materials they use to make stuff look really cool, like their glitter effects or their animated stuff, those are non-standard materials and shaders. And so getting those to move out of Tiltbrush and into other platforms has always been kind of a pain. So that was my very first reply to Alden at Sketchfab when he posted about this was, holy crap, did you figure out how to get all the materials and shaders into Sketchfab? And it sounds like it's working. So that's kind of the news. You basically authenticate your Sketchfab account, and when you build a sketch from within the app, you can push to Sketchfab. They have, and you've always been able to do that with Poly, but Poly wouldn't let you download Tiltbrush sketches. It would only let you download stuff built in blocks. I think because of that shader thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So does that cover it?
Yeah. For those that have done any uploading to Poly before, I think right now when you do an upload, you can select whether you're uploading to your Google Poly account or a Sketchfab account. And I think you can have multiple accounts in Tiltbrush, your Google account logins now within Tiltbrush, which is kind of helpful. And I the sketch that I did of you guys, I was able to upload that to Poly, of course, because it's just like Unity based for those things. And then I tried uploading to Sketchfab, but the materials didn't show up right. So I'm gonna tweak it a little. Yeah, I want to experiment a bit more, see like
I
what
noticed
went
that.
wrong.
Yeah, the materials do they don't look like they do in Tilt Brush.
Oh,
They look
okay.
different, but you
Like,
can make them look that way. But you got to go in and tweak them.
Well,
oh, you have
So,
to like
yeah.
find the materials or something. Ugh, God.
that's always been the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
is it Patrick and Drew that did Tilt Brush originally? I mean, they built Unity shaders to make it look cool. They never thought about what if somebody builds something in Tilt Brush and want to put it in another app. And so
Yeah.
I think we're still struggling with that. It like even though certain things probably come across perfectly, it sounds like just even on I know Spencer's only really tested it for today, and he's already ran into discrepancies, and so it's still 3D is hard.
Yeah,
Stuff's hard still.
it really is.
Well, because there's a whole bunch of different formats that there's a ton of different types of standards.
There's
That's
scale.
What's so great about standards.
There's different scale. There's different coordinate systems. There's different
Yeah.
shader languages. There's different renderers. It's a mess. It's all a mess. But this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I remember like a few weeks ago I was trying to get, because I'm only on a Quest right now. I don't have my full desktop set up. I've been kind of nomadic for the last 4 months. So I have an old MacBook Air and I have the Quest. So I've been trying to mix up with this. And so I can't run Boot Camp on my Mac. So I'm just limited to just the Mac OS and the Quest right now, which is kind of like, okay, like I can only do simplified models, and how do I get things in and off of the Quest, right? So I'm playing that game right now. And
Estella, you are so cyberpunk.
Oh, thank you.
It's like, I'm just using this little tiny, foldable computer and this virtual reality headset. It's a real piece of shit,
now, and I don't have my resources. I don't have my setup, and just try my best.
What happened?
Hello?
I think we had a little bandwidth hiccup.
Okay. Yeah.
We had a question about GLTF and GLTF smooths it over a little bit, but.
So a few weeks ago, I was able to export files from the Quest into GLTF. That's the only file that the Quest Tilt Brush files can export as. And then you just have to get the files off of the Quest that way. And I didn't even know what a GLTF was, but I was able to open it in Blender. And I had to call Danny Bittman. I was like, Danny, what the fuck? What do I do with this? Right? So, I was like, my material's not showing up. Like, what do I do? Like, what do I do this? And like, thank God, like, I'm grateful that like there's a chain of friends that I can call. Like my 3D model friends. I'm like, help. Like, I know you probably work with Tilt Brush 2 XYZ pipeline. We're probably the only ones that have tried this. What do we do? So I'm grateful for the friends that, spend the time to help me troubleshoot, and we all help each other.
Yeah, honestly, that's why we kind of started this show, was like for people that didn't have the friends to just ask.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard.
Well,
it's
I think also we saw a lot of people who were saying things that weren't true about AR and VR.
It's not hold on. It's not that they were not true. It's just the stuff's weird and they just don't know. They're not as nerdy as we are. But yeah, it's not that they're purposely saying. So to maybe help you with your problem, I will share. There is I talk about Babylon a lot on. If you go to sandbox.babylonjs.com, it'll let you drop GLTF, GLB, OBJ, or Babylon scene files, and this is a viewer, and so you can. I wish I could browse to. Oh, I can't. Okay, so like I'll pull in our little XR talk GLB, which is a GLTF. It's just packed up, and it'll load it up, and so you can check it to make sure it's correct. And I think they have a little inspector. Yeah. So this is all web based. So you can just you don't need to have a PC. You can do it on a Mac or PC, and it'll let you navigate like all the stuff in a file. So if you do have a GLTF and you're like, does it look weird or is it wrong? You can use Sandbox on Babylon to kind of look at it. We use this all the time at Torch to kind of debug GLTFs. It's a handy tool to use, and it'll give you like your poly count and all kinds of cool stuff. So
Cool.
That's my little GLTF tip of the day.
Thank you.
Okay, but sometimes GLTF comes across differently on different renderers, right?
Well,
like in Torch, you guys were using, what was the renderer you guys used?
Godot.
You were using Godot, right? And I think that the guys that I'm working with at Entrescan, the Hoxel guys, are using A-Frame. I'm not sure what A-Frame uses.
A-Frame's using 3JS.
Web. Oh, okay.
3JS. So those things are different, and they treat materials differently, and they treat it's just they're still not a standard.
Yeah, it's a mess.
And it's frustrating for artists. It really is.
So we got a lot of people here, us included, that want to hear from Estella, and we got a question.
You guys stop talking.
Can you talk about how your artistic process has evolved as the VR tools have evolved? I know Tiltbrush's toolkit has changed a lot over the years. Smiley face.
Yes. Hi, Scout. If you all don't know Scout, she is also an incredible VR AR creator in our space. Check out her stuff.
We'll get links.
See. Yeah, add your profile social media links.
Link us, Scout.
Okay, let's see. How has it changed? It definitely changes with the evolution of the tools that are there. For instance, for us creators out there, Oculus Medium was owned by Oculus, and now it's owned by Adobe. So you can't help but to think about how that changes with subscription models with Adobe, and how does that change the tool? What does that mean for access to the tools for people in terms of people who don't have the money for Adobe subscriptions, for example? And how will that change? I think a lot about how the tools are owned by certain corporations right now and what that means for the creators in the space. That's actually an honest conversation that I have a lot with my community peers.
Yep.
Because I'm a VR AR creator. My whole well-being is dependent on these tools, and so I can't help but to think about that often, and trying to decide which tools I want to use. Where I am right now, I think it's important to make sure that my skills are kind of I make sure my skills and my experiments that I work on are just constantly building up my skills overall, and it isn't necessarily just dependent on just one tool. Mm-hmm. But for myself, I like to be more of a thinker and do creative R&D stuff rather than just execution and asset creation. That's really important for me.
Yeah, I think a skill that I know the three of us have, and I think is to not be afraid to jump into new tools. That's the number one skill. Don't specialize. Don't be I only know how to make AR stuff through Spark. It's well, maybe that was your first workflow, but you should jump into these other. Don't be afraid to try this stuff. And the other thing I would say too is a lot of stuff's janky, and so it's not always you. If you're why is this so hard or weird? It's not because you don't understand it. We are on the bleeding edge of a lot of stuff, and we deal with a lot of and like you're saying too, the business side of it. These tools come and go; they get acquired. So do you really want to put all your livelihoods, weight on top of one tool that you don't know who's maintaining it, who's going to change it out from under you? Those are all good points.
Yeah,
I think having a really good understanding of the basics of 3D digital art is kind of the best thing you could possibly have for yourself, and because of all those things that happen, because the fundamentals of how we render 3D haven't changed in years. We render polygons, and so if having a fundamental understanding of how to make materials and shaders and polygons and move them together and stuff, and getting that basic stuff, you can learn new tools all the time. One of my mentors back when I was first learning 3D was this is just a brush. Because at that point I was doing airbrushing and I was doing screen printing, and he said, you like inks and screen, and you like airbrushing this is just another one of those tools. In fact, you can render something in 3D and print it, and then screen print over the top of it if you want to.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Right.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. You know.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too. I think a lot of questions I get when I go out and do demos and stuff. People are like, "Well, like, you know, what are we gonna do with VR? You know, how is this gonna turn into a thing? Like, what can you use Tilt Brush for actually? You know?" But I'm like, it's just the medium. It's just like a pencil or a pen. You know, it just depends on who the creator is and how they want to use it and apply it. That's up to the creator.
Right.
It's just like a brush.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, and really, we have a lot of people ask questions here about how do I get started or how do I build up a career around this. And I do think the people that I see that have been most successful in the past are the people that look at a new tool or a new platform and say, how can I work with this differently than it was, than it was originally intended for? How can I combine these things? Like I love that thing we posted of you earlier today, where you drew half your face in Tilt Brush, then you pulled it into Spark and made a face filter out of it. Like,
can we walk through that actually, Estella? Can you give us a little like Paul? Can you bring that GIF up?
Yeah.
And maybe Estella, you can give us a little kind of step by step through that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty straightforward, other than 3D model conversions halfway through, of course, but the actual execution of it is very straightforward. Wait for it to come up. It was based off of in the illustration world, there was a meme, Toon Me. So hashtag Toon Me was a thing where people were drawing half of their face in 2D. Yeah. So the way I did it, I drew my hair in Tilt Brush, exported it as the GLB file on the Quest, or if you have access to the PC version, you can export it as FBX. And then from there, I had to add the materials back in Blender and whatnot, and essentially get that hair into Spark AR.
So then you
had
use
to rebuild the materials.
So the face part though is Spark AR. It's just that's their face. And that's so cool.
I took the face mesh that they have. They have like a template face mesh, and I just took half of it and I painted with Procreate on the iPad. I just painted like my own skin color and my own features and stuff like that. And that's the mesh that it's using for the face part of it, and it's just split in half. So I just kind of made the other half transparent.
So the colors, the colors didn't come across the export from Tilt Brush. You had to reassemble those in Blender.
Yeah, for the hair, or the material for the hair, because it's a spike. It's the spike brush, so it's thicker at one part and then at the other.
Right.
Right. I was like, she uses spike brush on that. Yeah.
What brush are you using?
That's right.
So it's actually not that complex. It's just a matter of experimenting and playing with it. And
well, I think that's a really great example of it's not that complex, but it's still really cool art. And really cool art doesn't have to be complex.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
I'll show.
Look at look at Asian art, or the bamboo garden, or
I'll show this other thing. You can tell us about this one too.
Oh yeah, so this was I wanted to get a Tilt Brush model into Vuforia, so just target image tracking with the VR model to appear as the trigger.
Nice.
And so I did a VR painting of the Scream, and some of you guys might have seen that before, and I just wanted to bring that into Vuforia. This is when Vuforia was still in Unity. It was pretty straightforward to bring that in. Yeah, it was fun.
You lost track.
I know. I was like, oh no, the reflection on the phone.
Welcome to my world.
But yeah, it's a simple.
Okay,
concept,
so now what if we could transport Klimt into 2020 and have him see this painting?
He would scream and just evaporate and just disintegrate it out. He'd be like, no.
Was it?
Oh my god.
So you painted that, I would assume, at very large scale, like real world. So was it cool or weird to scale that down and see it like hit
Yeah.
that?
I had this, by the way, my phone is like an iPhone SE, so it's like the tiniest little phone. And to have that as a little tiny like little miniature model was very interesting to see it in my hands and move it that way because the screen piece you walk into it.
Right.
You get completely immersed into it. So it was really funny to see it as a small miniature. Yeah, those ones are always fun experiments.
So we
I have a question for
go
you
ahead.
about building in Tilt Brush.
Okay.
So you said, it's a full screen piece and you walk into it. So when I am building in Tilt Brush, I am constantly moving around because I have a relatively small space.
Yeah.
I'm constantly changing scale,
Yeah.
which I think actually kind of fucks up my art a little bit. Because I'm not, I don't have that same sense of scale throughout the painting. And I have it in my head. I know what I want to do, and so I'd start doing that. But I'm rougher when when I'm at smaller scale. Of course, I'm going to be. It's going to be a rougher thing. So how do you, when you paint, are you making sure you paint in like a basketball court, or how do you? What's your process there?
Depends on what it is. That's a great question. And I. My mentor Bob Cotto, he has a way of, he taught us like painting back in the day. This is 2D painting is how I learned first, right? And so just fundamentals of painting, you always work from like loose to tight, large to small, because you want to get your idea in first. You don't want to just start doing detailing out of nowhere. As like a professional illustrator, you just want to like get the rough thing in first.
Right, primary, secondary, tertiary.
Exactly.
Right.
There's a process to art making and the process to visual design, and so when I start making, it depends on what it is. If I'm making a full environment, actually the first step I do is I draw a line that is my height. So I always know what my human height is, and everything is relative to that. And in Tilt Brush you can reset your original like 000 point, and so I always have my relative height at that point. And I build it to scale according to that. And you can select things and make things bigger and smaller. But from that first initial body line, I build out the world, really rough sketches. So I take the wire brush, usually like a hot pink color that I know will not belong in the piece. And I just like draw it everywhere.
That's an old game dev trick, actually.
RGB 255, 255.
Yeah. Exactly, because then you know that doesn't belong, and then as I rough it out, I start working things out into more like block structures, and then detailing work, and then slowly erasing the pink magenta lines as I go.
That's so. Right. It's funny. I mean, it's like using a blue pencil back in the day.
Yep.
Right.
So actually, speaking of that,
non-photo repo blue.
Right? Yeah. A non-photo blue. That's right. I used to be a printing press operator, so I could start a whole other show about Paul's past careers. So we did have. Speaking of all that, and you talked about your traditional kind of background. Eric in the chat asked if you could share kind of that journey. Like, how did you get into Tilt Brush from traditional illustration? How does that progression happen?
All right, just kind of hang tight a bit. You guys maybe grab a drink or something.
We got time. We're gonna be flexible with the time today.
Great. I think we all come from different, like multiple disciplines, right? And I think that's what's required to be in this space. So I actually have a background building websites since 1996 when I was a very young teenager, just like I'm making GeoCities websites and like making websites for my high school clubs and like for like my parents' friends' businesses or whatnot, So that's kind of where the coding and kind of comfort with computers and stuff came from back in the day. At the same time, I always drew and always like kind of played with Legos and stuff like that. I went to UCLA for sociology. That's my first degree, actually. So I really care about people and systems and why people do the things that they do. Then I worked in web design, web development, front end for about 6 years. I had a career doing front end for a bit. decided that I never gave art a fighting chance in my life. So around 25, 26, applied for art schools. I was interested in studying entertainment, so illustration, visual design for animations, those kinds of things. So I applied for schools. I got into the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, a fantastic school.
Yeah.
But a very expensive school. I'll just leave it at that. I finished my degree there, my second degree in illustration for entertainment arts. And my last semester there, I think I saw my friend, one of my classmates, Tenny, was in the chat here, but she'll attest to this. During my last term there, instead of studying illustration, I was like, no, I don't want to go into the animation world. Like, I want to be an art director. It's going to take me like 40 years to become an art director in the animation world because it's run by, it's run by those guys, right?
Yeah.
That kind of funny,
white men. Yes.
Yep, exactly. And I'm like, let's just see what's happening in innovation. Innovation has treated me well. I want to see what's happening there. And that was around 2015, 2016. So I was like, all right, let's try this VR thing. Let's see what this thing's all about. I think the first thing I tried was like a 360 video or something from within or something like that. It was like maybe some sort of 360 video. And I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely feel that I'm there. There's like the sense of presence. This is crazy. I've never experienced anything like this before. I think I went to the Unity Vision Summit 2016. Tilt Brush was there. That was the first time I tried Tilt Brush. The developers were there, which is hilarious if you think about the creators were there, like showing off their product. Tried Tilt Brush, blew my mind. I got my hands on a Vive and Tilt Brush at that time before it even came out. I was sending the team feedback every week. I was like, hey, so like here's, I found a bug here. Here's some user feedback. This is how visual developers would do this. In
and
VR,
you know what? They probably totally loved you, even though you thought you might have been like a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
they probably totally loved you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, hey, here's some. All my friends are here. That's so funny. Hi, Grace. They're amazing animators, designers, by the way. These are top people in the industry, in the animation industry, by the way.
So, Estella, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
And now that it's switched, we haven't quite. Oh, there you. Thank you, Paul. Well done. Well done.
Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel.
Such choreography.
So what I'm hearing is you never had any 3D modeling experience before you dove into Tilt Brush. So this is basically you're explaining exactly what I was just saying about it just being another freaking tool. Like you're like, oh yeah, right on. I'm going to use this as an art tool, and you're going to go.
Yeah, actually, it served me very, very beneficially in this space because, actually the reasons I got brought on to do residencies, I helped with the blocks creation early on. So Jason Toff brought me on to the blocks team to do a week-long residence with them. And they brought me specifically because I don't know 3D modeling tools. They wanted to create a tool that would make it intuitive for anybody to go in and make stuff in VR without knowing what polys are, or like knowing what an extrude is, just like how do you explain to someone how to make a 3D modeling? How do you make a 3D model without knowing Maya or Blender or anything of that sort?
Right. Well, because there's so many freaking rules.
Exactly.
Right? For each package too.
Exactly. And that's going to be the future for sure. I mean, like it doesn't make sense to make 3D models on a 2D screen. It doesn't intuitively make sense. Eventually, we're going to do it all in VR. Right. So it's actually served me in a lot of like R&D situations that I don't know 3D modeling because I will tell the team like, this is what I want it to do. Why can't it do this?
Right. Now, you guys,
have you played around with? Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to ask both of you because you both work in Tilt Brush and Gravity Sketch, and I feel like Gravity Sketch is more technical, isn't it?
I was going to say that was my question. Is have you messed around in Gravity Sketch? Because that is a more technical kind of like a little more CAD kind of feeling environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I have played with Gravity Sketch, and I see it more as like it's a blend of different things. It's an industrial design tool that can also be used for illustrative and painting purposes as well. So it actually has a wide variety of what it can do, and I think it's really great for a 3D modeling asset creation space, because where Tilt Brush kind of like the cons of Tilt Brush is that like all my pieces are like millions of polys.
Right.
Like to kind of bring that into anything else is nearly impossible.
Right.
Unless I leave it within Unity, like that's fine. But if I build an app, like I tried making AR apps with my stuff before, it just breaks. Getting my stuff to Torch app and to Arrow, it breaks.
Right.
I'm actually a really good test use case because I kind of just break all the apps.
You're QA.
But you know, yeah.
Okay, so here's what I want. I want something like this is what I've kind of like been envisioning for a while since I started using Gravity Sketch and Tilt Brush in the Quest. Is I would love to be able to build some kind of cool hard surface model in Gravity Sketch and then export that into Tilt Brush so I could be more flowing and soft with it and like mess it up and then bring it back in and then so be able to like switch back and forth between applications like I do on the desktop. I use Cinema 4D. I do something in Cinema 4D. I bring it into Photoshop and I fuck around with it and fuck around with the textures or whatever, and then I bring it back into Cinema 4D. Like that concept of moving between the two packages is kind of not there yet, and
even worse on the Quest, right? It's like
it's there. I can't say it's not there because if you're on desktop, yes, you can save it off to your cloud device and then bring it back. But some kind of simple back and forth between all of these different projects.
So we have
different products.
Alvin from Sketchfab is actually in the chat. So
told him to come. Good. Awesome.
This is really making a case for Sketchfab should have a remix functionality where you can like push and pull back and forth into your Sketchfab file.
Go. Yeah, Sketchfab can be run on Gravity Sketch and Tilt Brush, so that if you guys can create a way to link all that'd be amazing.
No, you can only export, right?
You can only export too. If you could import from,
that would be your remix capability.
So that would be.
There you go.
There we go. It's done.
There it is. Check. There it is. Use cases. There it is. That's what we want.
Nice. We're in.
Yeah. I the Quest, but the form factor is so great, right? Because you can travel with it, and but it definitely, when you start doing the types of things you're talking about, you're definitely bumping into the fact that this is a curated experience device running on Android. Like, I mean,
I can't even do videos of my pieces.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't do videos on the Quest.
What about
you can do a 5-second GIF.
Okay,
what if you cast to the mobile app and screen record the cast? That's what I do with the Magic Leap.
Oh.
Yeah, you can do that.
Wait, so I can cast it from the Quest mobile?
You can cast from the Quest.
Oh, and then record the screen on the mobile.
Yes. It's not as cool. I mean, I know what you're saying. The PC Tilt Brush does that cool depth of field and all that stuff.
And they have camera tracks now. It's really cool.
Yeah, I doubt you could do that, but it'd be a way to get something off.
Yeah,
well, you can export camera pads to Sketchfab, I think, right? Didn't I read that in the blog, Albert?
Was that Alvin? We should have Alvin on next.
I know, we should. We should have him on the next one.
He checked out your thing and he said it looks better in shadeless mode.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. How
see?
Like you saw my private post. That's great. I was like, I don't know how to do this. Great, I'll check it out later. Thank you.
But I mean, that is ultimately like if it kind of goes back to almost what we were talking about with the Spark stuff, like the tools are getting so close to like just almost anyone who it like can jump in and build 3D assets, but
Yeah.
the minute you get comfortable with that and you want to start saying, well, I want to see it in AR and I want to push it into this
Yeah.
tool and that tool, is when you start hitting
And then
brick walls left and
there's a
right.
roadblock, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. That's kind of the limitation still.
So it sounds to me, Estella, like you have this like freaking incredible career that you've developed for yourself, and what you are probably needing to do next is figure out that kind of crap, the technical, or hire someone to do it for you. But it sounds like that's the place now where you have to use a little bit more left brain than right brain, right?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And that's a conversation I have a lot with, people who are working on those tools. Like I like to say things like, I wish there's a place where I can sell my artwork. Like I was actually at a conference last September. I gave a talk in front of incredible leaders in the corporate world, and they're like, so how do we buy an Estella original? I'm like, you can't right now. Like, I can't just give them the tilt file, because that's kind of like giving the photographer's raw file out. Like, I can't necessarily do that, and I don't know what kind of file formats are going to come out of this world in the future, or how art's going to be sold. And it's a question of like, how do you maybe I guess I can kind of number the pieces somehow. Is that what blockchain? I gotta figure that out. I guess.
I've got an idea.
Build that for me, Spencer. All right, yeah.
No, I think Paul could probably help with this. So, you as the artist, determine what your what the framing of your piece should be, right? And then you divide it into planar sections that are like maybe 4, 5, 6 planar sections. So you're not giving them the 3D model. You're giving them the 3D model in depth from one perspective. Right? So you set it up, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you hand them basically like 6 PNG files that they can then
but if you walk a
3D,
if you walk to a meter to the left, it goes flat, or it disappears.
Then it breaks.
Yeah,
it just disappears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're selling them a view
of it
into your 3D piece.
So I'm gonna do Alvin a solid, since he's been here, and you could.
Okay.
I don't know enough about the tilt brush export, but could you build up your file, and when you export to Sketchfab, does it allow you to create a new entry, or is it always one-to-one to the project file? Like, in other words, could you have one tilt brush sketch that you can export out multiple versions to Sketchfab, and then use the Sketchfab commerce system where you can sell through that to basically create one-off variants or variations of the source material? Is that possible?
But would you then modify that?
My concern then is like the original files could then be modded by whoever buys it. It could be like altered.
Yeah. Well, and the Sketchfab commerce part is set up for someone to make a model and sell multiple copies, as far as I understand it. So maybe that is interesting, though, because what you're saying is people have asked you for exclusivity, or some sort of exclusivity. That's interesting. So we had another question.
I think this multiple depth plane render out would be yeah.
That's a very interesting idea, Spencer, for sure. Like, I want to think about that a little bit more. I was like, because then you only get like one view of it, which is very interesting right now. Yeah, Todd, I definitely have spoken to the folks at Museum of Other Realities before. Yeah, they've been doing some really cool stuff there. If you guys haven't checked out the More, it's an incredible selection of immersive art pieces, and you can go in there and check out art pieces.
Is that related to the Northways of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Colin started it.
I did like the original stress test of that. I don't know if you remember, but when they were first testing out this idea, they put out an app, and they said if anybody has a Vive, that's how long ago this was. It's like, if you have a Vive, can you all jump into this at once and help us stress test it? And I walked in,
Wow.
and it was this big empty room with art pieces that you could teleport to, and they were
Yep.
testing out chat, and they were totally stress testing it. It was, but so I've only tangentially kind of observed what they've been doing with that. But is
Yeah,
that an option?
It officially just launched, I think, like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it had its public release, and yeah, it seems like they've been doing well. I haven't hopped in a while, but I hear that the architecture design is amazing for the museum now and everything, and of course all the artwork.
That's a good question. Let's see. How about using a web version with a protected folder for the 3D file? I mean, and I think there was questions earlier when we were talking about tools and like being worried about giving away your work to a platform. That is what is compelling about WebXR, right? Is that we could use the web infrastructure to show work that isn't necessarily someone downloading it or keeping a source version of it. The problem is...
So actually, I have a question about that, actually, because you have, in order to view it in 3D on your device, you have to download the polygons and point positions.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's got to be some kind of hacky way of like snarfing the source, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like it's back to, you can easily steal an image off of a web page without without them doing some clever coding to forward it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be a problem we run into. I don't think there's enough people. That's what I was going to say. Like using web. Like I'm always looking at the website and WebXR and trying to figure out how I can implement stuff that way. But the truth is like it's so cutting edge, and like the browsers are so non-standard around this 3D stuff and non-reliable. If I really need to build an AR thing today and I need to show it and needs to use advanced features, I'm going to jump into Unity because like I can do it fast and it's reliable and it works. It sucks that somebody has to I have to build an app and somebody has to download it. So I am very much a fan. That's why I was excited about the Quest talking about their OpenXR support, because it leads me to believe that they'll be more open to the WebXR stuff. But that is an interesting topic in general. Is like it's already tough as a digital creator to distribute your work, get compensated for it.
Yep.
So like in 3Ds, and even there's not. It's not like there's a whole ecosystem of businesses and products that you can use to distribute. So have you found anything like, or do you have a preference on that?
I don't really distribute my work now.
just don't share it.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like holding on to it until there is a distribution process, because like honestly, as an artist, it just doesn't make sense for me to kind of put it out there right now. I like share videos and that kind of content. And of course, if I'm like live demoing at a place, I share it there. Kevin Ng mentioned there is something about blockchain based digital marketplace in known origin. I don't know what that is, but Kevin is also another incredible XR artist in the space. So he knows a lot actually about what's happening. So I trust his words.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's another aspect of this. I think Estella, when we hung out for brunch a couple weeks ago, I talked about Gumroad, and Gumroad.com has been trying to do that for more traditional media, and so we still really haven't fully figured it out for non-3D stuff. And
True.
I mean, who really wants access to the 3D file that isn't going to also have the ability to reuse it or do something with it? In this, it's not like you have your average consumer that's like asking you to download this stuff.
Yeah, I think actually a lot of the questions that we have is actually more cultural questions. Like, well, yeah, exactly. Like, how do we use those files? Like, what is the expectations of someone owning the file or the art piece? Like, what does that mean? And I mentioned at first before, like a lot of my pieces, sometimes I'll be live pinning them exclusively at certain events or conferences. And like, I want to kind of bring this into the Corona situation right now, because like it has heavily impacted us as the XR artists, because a lot of us do live performances or live paintings or presentations, and it makes me question like, well, okay, what do I do now? You know, like where do I bring would I bring this stuff, or what should I do at this point?
Well, I'd like to jump in real quick
Yeah.
and say that your artwork stands without you being in front of it.
Oh,
You know,
thank you.
so you know your value as an artist is not just performance.
So much.
Well, no, it's true, and I think that yeah, this Corona thing is scary, and hopefully we're out of this in several months if everything goes good. But you know, I think that the work that we do now, whether it is helping people understand the severity and the importance of staying in our places and not infecting each other. I think at the outside of this, like on the other end of this, which I truly believe there is going to be an outside of this, that the work that we do now will be remembered, and the work that we do now is important. And so we have a lot of, you know, as artists and as humans, we have this kind of like, you know, brief moment in time to act right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. I think that's so important, especially, honestly, especially in the fields that we work in right now. Like, I think this is a huge testament of like the power of virtual workspaces and, you know, collaborative workspaces in the VR and in the VR space. I think there's a lot to be said about how this is going to completely change moving forward.
Yeah, it's really weird that Paul and I and our team have been working virtual for, you know, I mean, Paul just joined, but like, you know, I've been working virtual with these people for a year, and it's not like nothing's really changed for us other than we're all just freaked the fuck out, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like the anyway. I don't know what I'm saying.
I want to be super respectful of your time, so we're
Okay.
normally we maintain a strict 1 hour policy, but we're 1 hour 20 minutes.
That's right.
But we also
because this is the last episode.
We had a big and we had a big flub at the beginning, so we're doing some makeup time a little bit. But are you okay on time? I just want to make sure you're okay. So,
yeah, maybe for just 10 minutes more.
Okay, that's good. And then Spencer, what you said was so beautiful, and I didn't want to be a jerk, but you're so overexposed right now. You look,
I know I am.
You look like that pre-flash moment before a nuclear bomb. Actually, like you know that flash that happens before the flesh melts off their bones. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like the episode of
It's
Indiana
like
Jones.
Yeah. You're but you lingered in that moment before you melted. Yes. But seriously, because we talked a little bit before we went live, and so I know you had some thoughts around specifically, like since we only have a few more minutes, and we'll give people a couple seconds to ask questions. But did you have some specific thoughts around this crazy ass time we're in right now, around the COVID-19 pandemic and all the things we're dealing with, and then just like what can we do or what can you do as people that can, there's not a huge community of people that do what we do. So like, is there something unique that we can contribute, or do you see some sort of thing we can do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I wanted to ask you guys that because I think it's a collaborative question. Well, because just seeing like what Allspace and Mozilla Hubs and what they're doing is they're hosting the conferences that were canceled, and they're trying to figure out ways to bring people in virtually. I think there's also components of like, I don't know, like how do we get more VR headsets to people who don't have access to this stuff so we can get them into a safer space and still be able to learn and have collaborative conversations, because it's still an accessibility issue, I think that's an important part of this.
I just, as soon as you said that, the first thought that popped in my head is I've got a Rift in a Pelican case collecting dust because I use the Quest. How many people have Vives and Rifts laying around that they bought 2, 3, 4 years ago
Yeah.
and Windows MR headsets. Like, can we distribute those? Can we share those? Like, they're still good. We've just moved on to the next thing, you know.
Yeah, it's true. You know, like how do we, like, maybe who do we donate that to, and you know, what's the best use case that we can, like, of a place we could send that to, you know?
Yeah. Or like Spencer's gonna buy the new iPad, and he's got a really great one up for grabs.
If you need someone to donate that that really old iPad that you have
if you wanted to help a struggling, talented artist out, Estella's raising
Yeah.
All right. I'm just messing with you. I don't need one.
I'm so like, I'm so on the yeah, no. I mean, maybe, I don't know. God, don't do that to me.
Well, and it is true. I mean, we don't have to solve it right now, but it is something interesting to think about. Like, us and a lot of people in the audience and a lot of people listening to this, like, we have some special skills, and you know, there's things around. There's been a couple people messing around with data viz type stuff, but is there something we can do around awareness or helping people, because everybody's stuck at home right now, or most people are stuck at home right now? Is there something interesting there? I mean, just doing the show is probably helpful, but you know, like, how can we contribute to the greater good? That's a definite thing we should think about.
I think definitely for sure not misinformation about the stuff happening out there, you know, like definitely be educated about what's happening in terms of good health and safety for you and your loved ones and your family. Something I think about a lot, I know that there's heavy anxiety overall in the world right now. Just like I can see my friends and my families, there's just a lot of anxiety. So acknowledging that that's real and that's true, and that's the state of where we are, and having compassion for yourself to be like, okay, that I wasn't as productive today, or like I wasn't able to get all that work done, or I wasn't able to do this and that. Like, this is a really weird time, and having compassion for each other, I think, is really important right now.
Yeah, I caught myself yesterday because I've been working from home. I've worked from home for years. I've been working from home full time for months. Spencer also works from home. And I actually caught myself yesterday kicking myself for not being as productive. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's a lot of people that just got shoved into their home like 3 days ago that have their whole world turned upside down. I'm not going to beat myself up for one day of not working 8 hours. You know, it's like we've got to
I was actually going to say something about that photo that I saw on Signal with you drinking a beer sitting on the lounge in the backyard, but
that was personal time. Self-care.
It's self-care. It's self-care time.
Self-care. Eric asked about, do you have a Patreon?
Oh, I don't have a Patreon. No.
Have you looked into that?
I have. I think for me, because I already do so much work as an independent contractor and consultant, to do Patreon work, I don't know if I could keep up with. I would feel bad.
All the exclusive stuff you want to do?
Yeah. I know I would feel bad that I'm not doing enough. And it's more of a work-life boundary thing for myself to know how much I can handle. But thank you for that suggestion.
Totally. Well, I think we've hit our 1 hour 30-minute mark. You're such an XR celebrity that you brought so many new people to the show, and we spent an extra half hour.
Best show ever.
I know, it's been pretty good.
Thank you for having me be your first guest.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We can troubleshoot how to get the AV working for 3 people. You know?
Yes, you were part of behind the scenes for the first outsider, and thank you so much. So if you're still listening. You know, we're doing this every week, every Wednesday at 4. We go live. We keep the recording on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. The conversation always continues on Twitter and Discord. Oh wait, let's see if we can get our screenshot.
There we go.
So thanks so much for everybody that participates. And I mean, like, really, this would be boring if it was just Spencer and I rambling. So thanks so much. We'll keep Estella joined our Discord, so if you have any further questions or suggestions, she'll be there. And
Estella, do you have contact info?
Yeah, anything you want to plug besides
people who you want to plug some stuff?
No, nothing to plug. I don't need to right now.
Sounds great. No, that's good.
Just my social media is good. That's where you contact me.
All right.
What is that?
It's
right. It's right down here, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Just tag. We got it.
I'm just making sure. I want to make sure we hook the sister up. You know,
all right.
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, Estella Tse is my handle. Thank you everybody for coming and for all the great questions. I had a lot of fun, and thank you, Paul and Spencer. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul, can you get the show audio to roll us
but
out?
you won't be able to hear it. But yes, I will.
I know, but I think it's important for each show.
Here we go.
At least have it once.
Here we go. It's going. Just feeling like you can hear
XR
it.
Talk with Paul and Spencer.
I don't know.